Hello guys, how are you today?
Fine, fine. How about
Hi,
you?
I'm fine,
Ah,
thank you.
I'm fine
I'm
too.
fine too.
So we are going to talk about classification of living things. First question is evolution of natural selection. In 1835 of the Galapagos Island, young English naturalist Charles Darwin collected animal and plant specimens for study. His observation on this island will be fundamental in formulating his theory, which many years later will be published in his great work in The Origin of Species, a revolution book that changed the way biology was understood, giving rise to the new scientific theory. In this book, Darwin laid down the scientific principle that each species had not always been the same ways we know it today. Rather, each one had changed and altered over time. Three concepts are important to understood Charles Darwin theories. First, natural selection, evolution, and the origin of species. In animal and plant, random trait mutation and modification can appear. For example, a moth that is born a different color than its parent. Imagine that this mutation or new trait improve an animal's ability to survive in its environment. Animals with this favorable trait would be better adapted to where they live and have better chance to feed themselves and to reproduce than other animals of the same species without that trait. The offspring of parents with favorable characteristics will normally inherit those same characteristics. So, generation after generation, a trait that was praised occurs more frequently, becoming the norm within the species. This process is called natural selection. With the passing of time, these favorable mutations accumulate when species change constantly, adapting to environments that never stop changing. Here, how the evolution of species takes place. Two groups of animals of the same species that adapt to two different environments over time can come to constitute different species. This way, a process as simple as natural helps us to understand the origin of species. Okay, next.
next, the second question is main characteristic of the Linnean system. English naturalist Temporalus Linnaeus is considered the father of taxonomy because he developed a way to name and organize species that we still use today. In Systema Naturae, Linnaeus classified nature into a hierarchy. He proposed that there were three broad groups that is called as kingdoms. These kingdoms were animal, plants, and minerals. He divided each of these kingdoms into classes. Classes were divided into orders. These were further divided into genus and then species. We still use this system to classify living things. Also, we have added a few additional levels in the hierarchy. The broadest level of belief is called a domain. All living things fit into only three domains: archaea, bacteria, eukarya. Within each of these domains, there are kingdoms. For example, eukarya includes the kingdoms Animalia, Fungi, Plantae, and more. We know that kingdom at the top, kingdoms contain phyla, followed by class, order, family, genus, and species. Each level of classification is also called as taxon or taxa. The third question is classification of organisms into 5 kingdoms. Robert Whittaker, a biologist who proposed that organisms should be broadly divided into kingdoms based on certain characters like the structure of the cell, mode of nutrition, body organization, and reproduction. According to this system, there are 5 main kingdoms: Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista, Fungi, Kingdom Animalia, Kingdom Plantae. Now I will explain briefly about these 5 kingdoms. The first one is Kingdom Monera. These organisms are prokaryotic and unicellular. They do not have well-defined nucleus and also lack cell organelles. Consequently, some organisms are autotrophic and others are heterotrophic, such as bacteria. Second one is kingdom Protista. Organisms grouped under kingdom Protista are all unicellular, but eukaryotic organisms. Some organisms have appendages such as cilia, flagella, and Eupodia move around like amoeba and paramecium. Third is kingdom Fungi. Heterotrophic, multicellular, and eukaryotic organisms are grouped under kingdom Fungi. They have cell walls, which are made up of a substance called chitin. Examples include yeast and mushroom. The fourth one is kingdom Plantae. These are eukaryotic, multicellular organisms with a cell wall that is made up of cellulose. They are autotroph and synthesize their own food through the process of photosynthesis. These kingdoms include all plants. The last one is kingdom Animalia. These kingdoms include organisms that are multicellular, eukaryotic without the presence of cell wall. They have a heterotrophic mode of nutrition and also exhibit great diversity. The animal kingdom is divided into many phyla and classes such as monkey.
I'm gonna talk about a hierarchical classification. Hierarchical is referred to the taxonomy classification of living organisms in successive level of complexity. There are 7 levels of hierarchical classification. They are from largest to smallest. The first one are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and lastly species. Next.
So let's go to homology versus analogy. So homology is anatomical features that have of a different organism that have similar function because they were inherited by the same ancestor. While the analogy is anatomical features that have this similar function from a different species, but they are not from the common ancestor. For example of homology is wings of bird and human arm have the same functional type because they were evolved this from their ancestor. Analogy, for example, wings of birds and butterfly, they both were analogy adaptation for flight. But the fossil record shows that they are not sharing the same ancestor. Next.
Last question that people always ask is about the importance of classification. There are so many the importance of classification. First one is to record the world biodiversity. Next, it's about to communicate biological knowledge efficiently between beneficial and harmful varieties. And lastly, to develop strategy for protection and conservation of each species. That's all from our group about this topic. Thank you.